And yes, we are live now. Okay. Hey, everybody, man. Welcome to Geeking Out with the show where anything is on the table, anything and everything. We can geek out about comics, movies, music, cars, boats, anything you want. But so tonight we have a special guest. He's somebody that I admire and look up to, and happy to call a friend, and been wanting him on the show for a little while, but finally working it out to get him on here. So without further ado, let's bring out Chonko.
Hey, yo.
Hey, yo.
A little bit of a delay there. I was like, oh, I can't see myself. Did my camera go off?
How's it going, man?
Going well. Like I told you, I had a tooth extracted yesterday, but I'm okay. Just we were talking backstage about life in the military when you had to have dental things, and it was never fun. This was way better than that.
Friggin' torture.
Yeah, like ritualistic torture.
But well, before we get started here, man, let's let me say hi. Let's say hi to the chat real quick. Everybody that's tuning in. Got a few people here. Let's see. We got K Munin.
Yo, Cam.
And then let's see, we got Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Mark. Great and powerful Robbie.
Yo, Robbie, one of the best.
Yes, I'm so glad. Mr. Hughes.
Hey, Steve.
You here, buddy? Yeah.
It has to be really late Steve's time.
Yeah, no doubt. John, our buddy.
The great JSS. Blue
Master Wrench.
Yep.
Yeah, the Master Wrench, man. And let's do. Did I miss anybody? Robbie? Nope. That's it so far. We'll have some people trickling in. But all right. Well, I mean, you know the premise of the show. So let's tell the fine folks what you have chosen to geek out about.
Yeah, last week I was talking a little bit about geeking out with like something work related, and people were there was a collective yawn and cringe to what I was suggesting, so I kind of changed it up. I had a suggestion from someone, and I thought it was a better idea than what I originally had. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna geek out about the single best comic ever made, best comic story ever made. And one that I talk about sometimes, or some people, and it's a bit like people know about it, but not many people have read it, and it's because it is daunting to think about. But what we're going to look at is Cerebus.
Right on.
We're gonna. This is something I've wanted to do a deep dive into. Nate and I have talked about doing like a Cerebus reader, like we're like weekly. We get people and we're gonna like assign reading and read read the epic that is Cerebus. So I think almost everybody's like a bit familiar, but not completely. Unless you really kind of dug into it. Most people have like read. They're like, yeah, tried to read an issue. I didn't get it. I don't know what's going on. But it makes no sense to me, and which is true, because like if you just try to pick one up and read it, it's not like anything else. It's like you got to kind of like read a lot of it to understand it. But it is it's a series started in 1977, ran through 2004, so 27 years, 300 issues.
Wow.
And for a long time, it was the longest running independent comic. It was overtaken by Spawn. But it is some of the things about Cerebus that are really impressive. There's Nate. What the entire series was written and drawn by one guy, Dave Sim. The mad, brilliant yeah, like kind of insane, completely brilliant, legend, and also the pariah Dave Sim. With in starting in issue 65, there were backgrounds that were started like to add to it by a guy named Gerard from Quebec. He did a lot of like a lot of the really intricate backgrounds to it that really added to it. It as you start Cerebus, it's like a parody of Conan.
Yeah.
It starts off, it's very cartoonish, and it's a little bit stupid when it first starts, and it gets more and more and more um intricate and elegant and beautiful and tragic and silly and funny, and it's a challenging read. Initially it's just kind of a goofy, silly animal comic, and then it becomes more than that. So it's also it was the first series where they collected the full series into these kind of like graphic novels. Yeah, they call them the phone books because they're about the size of the old phone books that used to get yellow paper. And it is also a couple other things about it that were unique. Sim, back in the 70s, very early on, he proclaimed he was going to do 300 issues. That this is something he planned. Also, he told in this kind of first, volume of the collection, in this, he told how it's going to end as well. So and the end is Cerebus dies alone, unmourned, and unloved is what it all culminates into. So yeah, was going to kind of start with the first one and just kind of talk about them. A lot of this is from memory. I did not like go back and read all these. I've read some of the early stuff. I've read many times. The later stuff, I think I only read once, and it's dry and it's a little bit tough. Yeah. And up front, I just want to get a couple things out there. I'm going to go into only the controversy of Dave Sim as it relates to the story. The later controversy of Dave Sim hit where, and I'll just say it out loud. The worst thing about Dave Sim, and kind of the most reprehensible thing, is not like he had some opinions that were very controversial that I defended him on for years, because I thought you have a right to think the way you want to think. But later on, it came to light. He's admitted this. There was a young girl who was a fan, and I think she started as a fan when he started to talk to her, like over emails, or no, not emails. He doesn't use computers. He's like a Luddite. He doesn't like technology. He doesn't have like a cell phone. He doesn't have a computer. He's a little weird. But he, through letters, I think she was like 15 when they started talking. And then like when she turned 18, he like flew her out and he like groomed her. And when she turned 18, began a sexual relationship with this girl. So this is the thing that nobody can defend. Nobody can say, oh, that's just Dave Sim being Dave Sim. It was awful. And like I said, he admitted it. It's not like, somebody said, hey, this happened. Maybe, there's not a rumor. This is true. He's talked about this. So I want to get that out of the way first, that I'm not going to talk more about that. And, just as the great Neil Gaiman and, some of the other people who have these awful things that they've either been accused of or have done, right. I just want to try to divorce the work from the person as much as I can, except for when it comes to the story. When it comes to the story, I think it's important to talk about, but you can go research some of the issues with Dave Sim and make your own judgment about that.
He's still alive, right?
Yeah, he is. He can't work anymore. I heard he has an issue with his hands.
Okay.
So he, I think more recent stuff, he has let people do art with Cerebus, and he's kind of like done the story, and yeah. So yeah, I again, when it comes to this type of thing, when it comes to the terrible things that people have done. And again, I always compare it to Neil Gaiman, because like, just because Neil Gaiman's a piece of shit, it doesn't mean that Sandman sucks. And just because, Dave Sim did this reprehensible shitty thing in his life, it doesn't mean that Cerebus sucks. So yeah. And people who can't divorce that, I have trouble talking to them about this kind of stuff.
Separate the creation from the creator. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, because there are a lot of really awful people, and if you get into like musicians, I mean there are crazy stories of these guys like marrying 15-year-olds and stuff,
right?
Like rock stars. So yeah, if you don't you can't talk to me about any of your rock and roll stuff if you can't divorce the same thing. So anyway, that's kind of how I think about it. Anyway, so this is kind of the basis. This kind of it's like the bedrock that sets the stage for everything to come after. This part, it gets better, kind of later on, but early on, it's kind of a silly animal comic, and it's sort of like Cerebus has this really long nose, like an anteater, and this is Red Sophia, who's based on Red Sonja. Yeah. And again, this is all like, there's a lot of comic relief and stuff, and kind of silliness to it. And but it gets a little better. The artwork starts to get better, and more characters start to get introduced. And this is introduction of one of the bigger characters. This is Jaka. Jaka is a stripper that Cerebus meets fairly early on, and he falls in love with. And she is kind of his like Achilles heel throughout his entire life. Like, she's kind of his idealized version of a woman. And she kind of goes in and out of his life, and a lot of the things he does is to win Jaka over, and Jaka has her own part in the story. And one of the great things Dave Sim does is, like, none of these, like the main characters, they're really developed, and you get to know them a lot, and kind of their background. Cerebus is not always a good guy, but he also has terrible things happen to him. Some of it's his own doing, and some of it's not, because it turns out that Jaka is this idealized version of a woman, but she's also awful. She's a horrible person, and does horrible things, not only to him, but her husband, a guy named Rick, that she marries. But yeah, the artwork does change, and it starts to develop. It becomes more verbose. There's a lot more story and you start to get other characters introduced, and a lot of these are really, really funny. One of the characters is Nate said Red Sophia, yeah. But the Roach is a character that appears over and over and over throughout the comic, and the Roach is kind of a self-fashioned superhero, but he has multiple personality disorder. So he's always like appearing as like he originally appears as kind of the Roach, but then kind of later on he appears like with
Arthur from The Tick is what I was thinking of. Yeah,
he appears as Captain Roach. He's like Captain America.
Captain Roach.
And his sidekick, like the Bucky character, is Elrod of Melnibone instead of Elric of Melnibone. Elrod throughout the entire series talks like Foghorn Leghorn. Like his dialogue, it's hilarious. He's always hilarious. He says, fix your antenna. Y'all a dangerous case of the droops there, son. maybe that is. And he'll say things like to Sarah, he'll say, "Hey, boy," I said, "Boy, pay attention. You got the attention span of an overripe grapefruit." He'll say things to Cerebus, and he and Cerebus hates him. He hates him throughout the whole series. Anytime him or the Roach appear, Cerebus is like, "Oh man, these guys," and they kind of think that Cerebus is their friend, and he hates them, and they just keep reappearing. And of course, the Roach will be will appear as different characters. Kind of one of the most famous arcs with the Roach is he becomes Wolveroach, and switching. But like here, this is High Society, so this is kind of the second volume, and Cerebus starts kind of like getting very important and well-connected friends. He starts moving up in society, and he starts getting more influence. Boy, sorry, hit my mic. And yeah, this is where Guard becomes more involved. Like all these backgrounds, these the buildings and everything is Guard. And where all the characters and all of the lettering, that's all Dave Sim. One of the other things with Dave Sim is widely regarded as maybe the best letterer of all time. Like what he does with lettering is very different from most people. He conveys emotion and stuff. I'll show you a little bit of that. But yeah, the Roach reappears as Moon Roach here. And he takes on the complete persona of like the hero that he's reappearing as, but also this is where Cerebus lives in this hotel, the Regency Hotel, during this, and one of his connections is Astoria. Astoria is she's the daughter or the niece of he's the mayor or the prime minister, but he is the guy who's like the really powerful guy is Groucho Marx. He looks like Groucho Marx. He talks like Groucho Marx. He appears like out of nowhere. Oh yeah, here's Elrod coming back. I flagged that because have you got a towel, son? I seem to have gotten myself irrigated, soaked. That is, I'm damper than a businessman's armpits during a tax audit. That's a witty, son. We're going to be roommates. We're going to have to pay attention. I don't do subtitles. So like, this is where, Cerebus just sees him and he's like, "Ow!" Just because he's appeared and he hates the guy. But yeah, it becomes more elegant and more beautiful in this. And some of the other stuff, there's a lot of negative space that's used.
Do you think that this is related to like what's going on in Dave Sim's personal life, as far as is that mirroring that somehow or something? Is that where his influence comes from?
Less at this point, more later on.
Okay.
It does become, I would say, very autobiographical, and he even admits that. And at this time, I think it's still more of a story. But he does. There are certain things like the Regency Elf, who's kind of like almost like a Tinkerbell, but kind of like a hot Tinkerbell. But like, let me see if I can find he's in the mayor or the prime minister. I can't remember which he is. It's been a little while. But he will, he's like Groucho Marx. Yeah, here he is. He'll like suddenly like poke his head out of like a hole in the wall, like and appear and you make these like witty Groucho Marx quips and stuff, and it becomes really, really funny, really, really great, starting in High Society. And this is kind of where people started to really notice it. Like this is where it starts winning awards, and he becomes kind of like a darling of the comic book world. And that really culminates into what comes next, and it's a 2-volume. It's the largest of the story arcs, and it's Church and State. Church and State number 1, Church and State number 2. Church and State number 1, he starts to become more powerful. He becomes prime minister at some point, and he decides that's not powerful enough, and he wants to know what would be more powerful than being the prime minister, and he decides he wants to be pope. And this This is him as he becomes Pope. Here he is on the top of this church, and he's like commanding the people. He basically, and he just sends people out on holy wars, like conquests, and he like starts saying, yeah, like things like, yeah, send everybody out, every able-bodied man over the age of 12, no, 9. And he's like, and one of the like connected politician goes, oh, but you know, your excellency, shouldn't somebody be exempt from such a draft? He's like, you're right. Okay, no dead people, but hold mirrors under their nose to find out which ones are faking. Like,
but is Dave Sims English or is he American?
Canadian.
Okay.
Yeah. But like some of the lettering, like these like icy things, like to convey like how it's being said, are some of the other kind of brilliant things that Sim does. And kind of later on, like he's Pope, and it's like the Pope's not allowed to marry. He changes that rule, and Red Sophia shows back up, and you know, now she kind of I can't remember, but yeah, they're all telling him, no, you can't have sex outside of marriage. So he immediately pronounces them like married, so he can like go to bed with her as soon as she shows back up, which goes terribly wrong. And just like it goes into like more of this kind of, and a lot of the cartoonish characters start to show up in this in Church and State 1. Church and State 2 is he starts to find out about this. There's a way that you can become elevated to talk to God, and this is called Tarim. And you have to have this perfect gold ball or something, and you get elevated to go and walk on the moon and talk to Tarim, and that becomes his thing. So he starts, getting this plot together. Other people are trying to ascend, and he has to like fight with them, and that's kind of the whole basis of Church and State 2, is to become ascended to talk to Tarim. This is kind of him like walking in these kind of these like these skull piles, and where he goes to talk to Tarim, and he goes up. Where he ascends to the moon, and on the way there he meets these other creatures in reality that are trying to ascend to talk to Tarim with their own like gold balls. One of which is like, it's like half swamp thing, half man thing, like each head, and in the middle head is Alan Moore, and he's talking to Mick Jagger appears in as one of the people he talks to and things. Then he goes to some called Melmoth, and Melmoth, there's a character who's Oscar Wilde, and he's he is appears throughout this. It becomes much more verbose here. He eventually, you get to Jaka's story. Jaka's story is all about Jaka. It's just how she grew up, and her caretaker is in this, and her caretaker is a caricature of Margaret Thatcher. And
oh wow,
this is let me see. Yeah, it's Cerebus also is living with Jaka and her husband Rick, who he wants to kill because he's ended up with Jaka, and these things start to happen. But eventually, what happens is that Cerebus, he ascends and comes crashing. He finds out there are two other aardvarks alive, and one of which is like the head of this like cult of Tarim. He ascends to talk to Tarim, is completely disappointed by it, comes crashing back down to Earth, where he's lost everything. He's no longer Pope. He has no more money. This could be a little bit out of order here. I'm just remembering it as I'm talking about it.
More than I know, buddy.
And he comes down to what's called like square one, and he has nothing left. All his money's gone. He's not powerful anymore. And then a story arc begins that is the controversial part, and this is what caused a lot of Dave Sim's problems. And this is where I think a lot of it starts to become more autobiographical. Dave Sim had, I think he had a couple failed marriages, and he had a lot of like a woman trouble at this time. And it starts a story arc called Mothers and Daughters. And Mothers and Daughters starts to get into Dave Sim's uh, theories on women, and it he it's a bit complicated because again, I at this time I thought he had uh first off, he's telling a story. Second, the part that's autobiographical where he does, he gets challenged on a lot of what he's saying, but I'm just trying to lay the background. Basically his thesis is that uh don't come at me. I'm just telling you what it said. That in general, that women as they're young are what he calls daughters, and they live a life that's selfish, and that they focus on themselves, their priority is themselves, their political causes are self related until they become mothers, and then it's their children, and they become more maternal, and they start caring about things exterior after motherhood. This is his thesis on what Mothers and Daughters becomes, because what Cerebus returns to is a matriarchal system dominated completely by women, where men have no rights, and men are subjugated, and it's ruled by a matriarchal system, who are the mothers. The mothers kind of run everything. The daughters have very little to do with anything, but they're just permitted to go and live their lives in this kind of like this kind of selfish way. But men are subjugated, and they're kept in they're allowed to have like sports, like they're allowed to like watch sports, they're allowed to go to bars, and but they're not allowed, they have no access to weapons, they're not allowed to be aggressive in any way, and these types of things. And the head of this matriarchal society is a female aardvark, and who becomes Cerebus's rival. and and this is kind of the thing. So this part is worth talking about, because this is where, so up until this part of the story, Dave Sim was celebrated, like he was talked about as one of the all-time greats. The storyline comes out, and of course a lot of people lose their fucking minds. They are everybody calls him a misogynist. He's not allowed to go to comic conventions anymore. And he addresses this, and instead of, he doesn't back off. He like kind of doubles down, and he writes a very what became kind of an infamous letter. And it was like he was like, what he was saying is like his final word about all of this. You can still read it online, but basically his whole thing was that he believes parts of this, and this is kind of something that he's arrived at, in at that point. He also starts in the story, he starts to develop some kind of a view on religion, I guess. Another important part to Dave Sim, and I hate like keep going back to Dave Sim. Dave Sim lived a really wild life early in Cerebus. Like, he was partying. Like, every issue of Cerebus had a photo of Dave Sim on the back, and he was drinking and using cocaine, and his girlfriend was like this cosplay, it's like a hot X-rated cosplay girl. Like, he was wild, like just in Vegas. Like, he was just crazy. And then later on, he kind of renounces that and kind of becomes like kind of somehow religious. I don't really know what that meant for him. and it kind of coincides with this thing. But the part about this, about mothers and daughters, and this kind of story, when he doesn't like back off of it, he doesn't apologize for it, he becomes a pariah, cast out completely. And one of the things that he says in this, one of the things I think that really caused him to be cast out was he makes the statement that he believes that modern feminists were actively trying to take over comics, that they had an agenda and they were trying to feminize comics and turn comics into, like, feminist statement pieces. And he says, I believe he the way he says it is, feminists and their puppet husbands is what, and this becomes wild. And yeah, and you can imagine a lot of people lose their mind, and he just completely cast out. And for a while there, like, if you wanted to talk to Dave Sim, if you wanted to, like, send a letter to Dave Sim, on the outside of the letter, he would only even open it if it said on the outside, Dave Sim is not a misogynist. But yeah, it leads to this crazy time, and it's like mid 90s, and it's one of the first times I ever heard of what I would consider someone being canceled, like really actively canceled. And it was a crazy time. Again, at this time, nobody knew about this story with this young girl. This was all just completely about what he was saying,
what his beliefs at that time were, huh?
Right. And it's again, I'm just relating the story. I'm not trying to say anything more than that. You make your own judgments. You can read about the stuff that he was saying at the time. But anyway, that's kind of like a story arc that takes place. It's like 4 volumes. These are like smaller ones, like Flight and Women, and these are kind of like parts of the story.
How many Bibles did he publish?
It went up to, what was the last one I have it up here? It's 16.
16. And roughly about how many issues were in each Bible? Do you know?
They vary. Like, so the Mothers and Daughters, it's kind of like he didn't publish Mothers and Daughters as one collection. He broke it up into smaller ones.
Okay,
but this is called Mothers and Daughters, a story arc. And then one of my favorite parts, it takes place a little bit after that. This is kind of after the controversy a little bit, and it's just called Guys. And Guys, it's it's still that time where they're, men have been subjugated, and they're just allowed to go and drink in bars, basically. And it's Cerebus, and this whole thing is Cerebus just drinking in a bar with his buddies and telling stories, and
and what issue numbers would that be? Do you think? Does it say?
I don't remember, but it's about 19,
like issue 100 to whatever.
Oh, maybe it says it. Hold on. But it's about 1996, 1997.
Okay.
No, but this is the introduction is one of my favorite things to this, and this is really largely autobiographical. And he talks about when he was writing kind of some of the stuff before this and this. He found a bar in Ontario that he was going to, called the Peter's Place, downtown Kitchener. And he would go in there and he would just hang around and he would have some beers and he would write. And he got to know a lot of the people. He became a regular, and it was like his play. He would go there every evening and hang out and write and talk to people and stuff. This kind of later on that happened to me. I became a regular at a bar when I moved out to Seattle. Yeah. But he talks about it here that it became like this was his entire social circle. And then one day the bar burned down, and all those people kind of scattered to the wind. He never saw him again. Never. Like, what do you do? Yeah, and he ends this kind of introduction with this thing where he said, I had most of the issues of Guys done. I believe it was a Sunday night in November of '94, and I left Pete's, as some of us called it, at about 11 o'clock. Next morning, I found out it had been gutted by a fire in the early morning hours, and well, that was that. Hey, never fall in love with a bar. and that's where he arrived at, and that's kind of where Guys comes from. It's one of my favorite parts, along with some of the earlier kind of brilliant stuff. And later, the story it gets a lot darker. There's a lot of like Ernest Hemingway and then Cerebus getting older and fading and eventually eventually he does end up with Jaka, and like the one guy says something kind of prophetic to him, as he's been like for 20 something years he's been chasing Jaka. Finally she he's in a relationship with her and he thinks it's all going to work out, and he's miserable and yeah,
but it ends up being that old careful what you wish for type thing or whatever, or it's not always greener on the other side, or however you want to say it. But
it became this thing. Oh yeah, Steve said 2000 or 201 to 219 is Guys. Thanks. Yeah, and then kind of the original art that I have back here is a page from later on, and this is as he's starting to realize, like Jaka's yelling at him or something, and he's like starting to realize that it's not all cracked up to be, and it wasn't his dream, and that it was just something he had idealized, and it was not real. It was that he had this fantasy of who she was that he met all these years ago, and in reality she was just as troubled, and she was also she was terrible. She's a terrible person. He's a terrible person, but she's a terrible person too. He thinks that like if he could just be with Jaka that everything will be okay, and it's not true. And it kind of reminds me of something somebody said to me once, that always remember the one constant in all of your failed relationships is you. It's you can sit and you can pronounce everybody else that you've ever been with crazy and all whatever you said, but the reality of it, the one constant factor is always you. And this starts to become another thing with Cerebus. Now he's left with this that it's not all going to work out just to be with Jaka, because that didn't happen, or that didn't work. So there's a lot to it, a lot to Cerebus. It is complex. It deals with religion and politics, and it's satirical, and it's hilarious. It's well written. It's beautifully drawn, and again, some of the great, maybe the greatest letterer in comic book history. It's a magnum opus. It's a guy who did it, 300 issues, all completely by himself, again, other than the great, amazing backgrounds that Gerard does that really do add to it. But story and all the characters, everything, every piece of the writing is one mad genius named Dave Sim. And it is the best thing that's ever happened in comic books.
Well, like you were saying, after 20 some odd years or however long it's been, you would, as a creator, you would have to start turning like inwards and getting more and more personal, like you were saying, and kind of getting more and more out there at times and stuff, but if you look at yourself or reflect with yourself at all, like he did, but he's a very interesting character for sure, dude. He kind of sounds like he might have had little mother-son relationship issues when he was little or something, man, because his take on certain things may not align with everybody's ideology, but
I think a lot of it has to do with his failed relationships, but also like I'm not convinced that he was totally wrong on the comic book part. That I think and this is a controversial Chonko take, and everybody could throw Rotten Tomatoes at me, but I think he saw something that did wind up happening, and that you did see this thing where every character has to become female, everything has to be female led, it has to and there was this push toward this, and he was on the inside at the time, and I don't know that he was completely wrong, especially how badly people freaked out. People don't freak out like that if there's not a string of truth. People freak out,
right.
Like, I mean, it's not like it's not like he was like, some, fascist, or he wasn't. He was
He
just
wasn't like straight up bashing everybody. It was just
he was saying, this is what I think is going on, and
right.
this is the direction I see it heading. It's way before it really got to the point where you did start to see like some really kind of crazy stuff happening with comics, and the direction that it was taken for some time that I think led to a bit of the downfall.
Okay.
But that's just my take on it. It was one of the reasons why I again, until like the really terrible stuff came to light, I used to defend Dave Sim, and then I couldn't once that part came out. When it was just this, and it was just this is his take, I was just like, why are you guys getting so upset by this? Like, I was like, it's just one guy's take. I was like, unless like methinks thou dost protest too much, that he's right, and he's right. Like that, not about the whole thing about the nature of women, but about what was happening in comic books, or what he saw happening in comic books at the time, that there was this kind of like feminist angle that was taking root.
Yeah, shift was
And
happening. Yeah.
and again, some people might say that's a real positive thing. And everybody can make their own judgment on that part. They, if they might think that had to happen or something. But I think to just to point it out, and to have people say, like, lose their mind, and then suddenly you're not allowed, you're cast out and not allowed in this community that celebrated you, it was wild to me. Again, totally distinct from the stuff that came to light later, which that was pretty recent, that came to light about this young girl, and that is something that nobody can defend.
Right. Yeah. But I tell you what, usually when I pick them up here and there, it's a lot of, it's in the dollar boxes or something like that, but it's complete cover buys because I just love the covers, and then I end up reading them a little bit here and there. So I've dabbled in Cerebus throughout the years, but never like latching on wholeheartedly about it and stuff. But yeah, that's I'm gonna have to start picking up some phone books here and there now, and start to really go back and kind of reread it here and there. So
the early stuff, I think, is mostly non-controversial, and that's probably
pre-High Society.
No, High Society through Church and State. Church and State, I mean, there's a little bit with religion, but nothing too bad. But then, yeah, it's really after he comes crashing down, after he comes crashing back to Earth, is where you start to get into, more of the mothers and daughters storyline, and that's where it got to the point where people were, objecting. And I think it's still really well written, and it's still a great story.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this different take that he had, and the part that people really, I think, objected to more than the story was when he came out and spoke. He had interviews, and he talked about it, and that was when people were like,
what do you know what he's doing now? Is he just living off the Cerebus money, or is he
he's sold a lot of his art. He does release like some Cerebus stories now and then, but I think they're being drawn by somebody else. He just writes it. There was like the Cerebus in Hell that was recent. There are a couple other ones that have been recent kind of stuff. I've picked them up, but it's not as good. It's just he's just kind of riding on it. But yeah, like, of everyone, of all people, like living comic creators, the guy who I would most like to speak to is Dave Sim. Like, I would love to talk to him. I would love to he doesn't have a computer, so you can never have him on. Hi, Glitter Duct Tape. And yeah, I think it I'm sure he would have certain ground rules like that he wouldn't want to talk about, but I anytime I've heard him talk, and I've heard him talk more recently, and he I don't know, he doesn't sound like he used to. There was a time where they were going to do a Cerebus animated series, like, or an
That's what I was
animated.
going to ask you, man. I'm surprised that it never got. I'm
Let
sure
me
it got
turn
out.
my camera off. I'll grab it. I got some cells. 1 second.
Okay.
I got it right here.
And that's Chonko without a beard.
It is. But yeah, these are some of the kind of the animation cells, or like proposed art. These aren't cells, I guess. It's more. Yeah, it's still sealed. I haven't taken it out.
Did they create a pilot then, or an episode or two of that?
You can see online where they started to do it. They started to make it, and they started to animate it.
Let's see that again, Mike. I didn't mean to cut you off. Let me see that cell again, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. It's just kind of concept art, really. There are several of these in here, for what it was going to be, and then online on YouTube you can find kind of the beginnings of this. It's early 2000s they were doing this, and Sim is doing the voices, and it's kind of like I always imagined how Cerebus talked, and then to hear Dave Sim do his voice, it's like it's not at all how I wanted him to sound. Like, Dave Sim's talking like this. Hey guys, it's like doing this, like this goofy voice. I was like,
really?
What? That's not how it is in my head. That makes it worse, dude. But yeah, I have some other of the more kind of rare Cerebus stuff, and like I've got the playing cards, and I've got, there were certain things that were released over time. Kind of the most rare thing I don't really have it. There was a Cerebus plush animal, like you get like a stuffed animal.
Wow.
But that is incredibly rare. I don't think there are very many of those that exist anymore. But
you would think there'd be quite a bit of those, because it's a cute little character, basically.
Yeah,
you would think
didn't last. Yeah, but yeah, it's like I keep telling everyone, it is not an easy read. Like as you get into it, it's like more and more, it's it becomes almost like a full book, like parts of it where it's really, really long-winded and stuff, but it's yeah, it's like somebody needs to do like a movie about this, like the whole thing about Dave Sim and about these things. What would be great is
Bobby.
Bobby would be great, but the other guys
do that.
Matt with 4 T's. If you get Matt with 4 T's, like he does. Anybody who, if you're not subscribed to Matt, it's like Matt, and when I say 4 T's, it's just Matt T. He does these long videos about artists or comics, where it's like a deep dive. Like he did this one on Mobius that's just fantastic. He did another one on Carl Barks that was great. Like he's just great.
That's how Mullet Man does too. We ever watch Mullet Man? He does a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, Matt with 4 T's, it'll be like a 45-minute video, and it'll be like all things you never heard of. Like he talks to people that are it's just so deep. Like Raph does a good job with those, but yeah, nothing like I would love to see somebody like that, or you said Bobby do an actual video where and talk to the guy. I would love to just have somebody have a long form discussion with Sim about this stuff, and I would like to really hear, now that it's probably 15 years after or more, after almost 20 years after he was totally canceled. I would like to hear his opinions now, and I would like to hear him talk about Cerebus, like long form discussion about it. I don't know, but I think he's absolutely fascinating, and I think to do this is particularly at times when it wasn't even selling that well. And
how old is he now? Dave Sim.
He's in his 60s, I would guess.
Probably, yeah.
He had to be 60s, somewhere probably mid 60s.
It started out in the mid 80s. Is that when it first came out? It was about mid 80s?
No, 77.
Oh, 77. Oh, I thought
77 to 2004. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you did say that. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's all right.
It's
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of questions. Yeah. Hey, Adam.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody in the chat, if you got a Cerebus question to ask Mike, well, we got a few minutes here. We'll hit him up. I was trying to watch as you was talking. I was trying to watch the chat.
Oh, John says 69 years old. Okay, yeah, he's a little older than I thought. But yeah,
okay. Wow.
There are these certain people that are connected to comics and stuff that I would just like to talk to or to hear from that you don't hear from very much. And for him, it was for a specific reason. And I've heard that he tried to go to like conventions a couple of times and was like immediately like, you have to leave, like that kind of a thing. And now he just doesn't even try. So yeah.
Nate, next summer, Mike Summer Service.
That would be. I'd like to. Yeah, I would like to do that. I would like to, go back through it.
It'd be an awesome show, man. If you guys, get on there and discuss it, and I would definitely partake and read something and be able to discuss it because that'd get me into reading because that's what keeps me on my toes as far as my reading and stuff like that. And like I said, I've always found Cerebus fun and interesting, especially the earlier issues and stuff. Like
it's tough. It's tough to like pick up an issue and read it because it's like,
right,
what? Who's this? And what is that? Why is that guy talking like that? It's like especially like much later on. It's like that is how it happened for me though. Like in the 80s, I started buying it when Church and State was and I one of the first things I read was with Elric of Melnibone or Elrod of Melnibone, and I was laughing so damn hard at that because he talks like Foghorn Leghorn that I started to get into it. I started to buy it, and then I started getting back issues, and this is kind of before there were the phone books, and then eventually I just kept going and going and going, and then eventually was able to read.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, when did you actually start getting into it?
Yeah, it would have been what issue? Circa issue, I have no idea, but like year like 87, maybe 87, 88.
Okay. All right, yeah.
Yeah.
Question says, do you like Cerebus from the first read, or did you grow on you over time? It's a
first read. First issue that I picked up had that where it was Cerebus getting mad at the Roach and Elrod of Melnibone, and I was laughing and laughing so damn hard. I didn't really know everything about it, and but yeah, that specific issue that I bought, I don't remember which one it was, but it had me hooked.
That Roach character, that like you said, his ability to mimic certain characters or use the same characters over and over to get his point across in different ways is just, it's
so silly. And he takes on the persona, and it's like a lot of times he's like making fun of Marvel, like even back then he's like making fun of like the tropes at Marvel. He's making fun of a lot of the writers at Marvel. There's a lot of stuff that he's doing there that's
constantly taking jabs,
and just like the big publishers, like it was really, really funny, and that's kind of where I and I think that's kind of like the height of the story. I was later than High Society. It was sometime in Church and State that I started reading it, and I remember being in like a study hall reading one where he was talking about going to war and drafting people, and the only exempt people were the ones he would have to hold mirrors on their nose. I'm laughing, and people don't know why I'm laughing. And even friends of mine, I'm trying to tell them, I got this. Oh, it's Cerebus. You go, look what he says, and whatever. And they're like, what? I don't get it.
What?
Like, no, you got to know. You got to have read the one before. And they said this, and they don't care. It's just, yeah.
Hey, as long as it tickles your funny bone, that's all that matters, man. That's how
I think that's what happened with a lot of people is they they found they latched on at a certain part, or they went back and started reading the phone books and got to those points where it's really funny, or you're in the Regency Hotel and they're like Cerebus talking to someone and suddenly like a picture moves and Groucho Marx sticks his head in and it says something funny and then disappears.
Like breaking the third wall. Yeah, breaking the third wall. Groucho Marx looking at you.
And then it's like, why is Mick Jagger here? And like, why is it, like all kind of, and like Marty Feldman, like, remember the guy like from Young Frankenstein with the eyes, like the yeah, he's like in it.
Igor,
yeah. just all these kind of silly things where it's like, yeah, why is that guy here? Or the whole Marx Brothers are in it, but yeah, just silly.
And see, that's stuff. When what you're describing and what you were showing and stuff, his sense of humor, you could almost see not McFarlane's, but Family Guy's influence or something on that, because of how his sense of humor is how you like Groucho Marx poking his head in, saying something stupid. They do the same thing with Family Guy, so you can see his influence in other people's work. That
it does get a little heavier. Like that is a good example, is like Family Guy, but then like he brings in like Oscar Wilde and Ernest Hemingway, and it's like why? and it becomes, and a lot of these characters are like really tortured, and it's and like Jaka going through her whole life story where she's like raised very wealthy and kind of this boarding school with this awful, like, I don't know, like the head of the boarding school, or whoever it is, her nanny or something, who is Margaret Thatcher. It's Margaret Thatcher, and is terribly mean to her. There's just, it's just crazy, and it's just so wildly creative, and the satirical, like the satire of these different people, and Alan Moore showing up, with his like, gold ball, and like he's a three-headed monster with, Man Thing, Swamp Thing, and Alan Moore's head, and Cerebus having a conversation with Alan Moore is funny. It, like, all of this stuff is really, really funny. Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
And a lot of it is making fun of the comic book industry, which somebody needed to do, because nobody was doing it back then. Not really. I mean, you'd have like certain like light jabs, but not like this, whereas like somebody had
taking full swings.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
well, Mike, this is great. What is it? Check out
Glamour Pushers. He did a satire of the fashion industry and fashion magazines, and it's really incredibly well drawn and very, very, very funny. I have most of those. Yeah.
Okay. But well, Mike, this has been a blast, man. I've definitely learned more than I thought I already knew or something. Like I said, I've been in and out of Cerebus's world, but nothing like you're a true hardcore fan, what I would consider a hardcore fan, and that's awesome, because it hit the mark, because that's what I like doing this show for, is to learn. If I can walk away and learn something I didn't know, or pique my interest to really check it out. Like I said, I really do need to get back into it a little bit more, but I can remember that was part of the problem years ago when I would read them here and there. Sometimes it was just like, what's going on?
That's how it is. And shout out to Brittany. That this was her idea. I've talked about her. She's one of my exes that I'm still friends with. That I was telling her about what I was gonna. She wanted to know what are you gonna geek out about? And I was like, I'm gonna do this thing, the manufacturing. And she's like, oh, I thought you'd either geek out like about your dog or like Cerebus. And I was like, wow, Cerebus is a better idea. I mean, Chonko's cool, but there's not a lot to talk about. He doesn't behave. If I bring him in here, he tries to jump, he freaks out. So yeah, that doesn't work.
You'd be wrestling with him, for sure. But all right, well, man, like I said, this has been a blast. I want to thank everybody in the chat for coming and hanging out and geeking out with us. And you got anything before we go? You got anything you want to put out there?
Let's remind people Saturday we're going to have the great and powerful Stray Flexin Yaniv is going to come on. I think he's really coming on this time. I know we announced it before, and we had to switch up. I think he's really coming. But yeah, Yaniv is going to show some of his personal collection. And if you don't know, Yaniv is like really high end comic dealer. Like he deals in that stuff where like he's he's owned and sold an Action 1 before. Like, he's like rarefied air level type dealer. And he's going to show some of his personal collection, some of his original art and stuff. He's also going to show some stuff that he has for sale, and we're just going to talk to him about comics. And he knows a lot about comics, and I think I've heard his personal collection from Alan. I heard his personal collection is really, really wild. So I think it would be pretty fun.
I'm looking forward to it. I hope something doesn't come up to where he needs to reschedule or something, because I'd really like to talk to him and see what he has, like you said, in his own personal collection for sure. Because that's always to me, that's always a really interesting thing to look at a collector's collection, you know, or a seller's collection, basically see what they actually like and keep, because somebody like him who's willing and dealing and a lot of high-end stuff, you're bound to come across some gems that you're just like, I got to keep that.
Yeah, some of the stuff I've seen him show like for sale is like, oh my god, I wish I could buy that, you know.
Right.
And then it turned out I couldn't buy it, but some of the stuff I could make a trade for. It turns out. Oh, I do have one more thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if people saw, but I think tomorrow is going to be the long-awaited, dreaded Chonko takes a giant crap on your favorite Silver Age comics. I think that's happening tomorrow. I think I'm ready to do it. Yeah. So get your Rotten Tomatoes and barbs and arrows ready, and because I'm coming. You're gonna. I hope it's funny, and I hope people, you know, like it at least, even if you don't agree. But
it with a grain of salt, man. Just don't go into it. Not you. I'm saying for them not to go into it. You know,
if you're
too seriously.
I'm not trying to ruin anybody's time. That's what I want to do. I'm like, just know I'm shitting on the comic, not on you. Like, I'm not, you know, just because that you might like that thing. I mean, I have things that you think are anybody thinks are terrible, like where people are like, why did you buy that? Like, you know, like I'm sure of that, but
I get that all the time.
Right. But it's still, there are things that are in it. There are key comics that are known keys that I fully acknowledge are total keys in collecting, that people love and have a great deal of nostalgia for, that where I look at that cover and I think it's awful. and I'm going to tell you why I think some of those are awful.
But I've got I'm actually going to try to, I about got the video finished. I'm calling it my Forget Me Not video. It's some stuff that for whatever reason, in the last video I posted there, it's stuff I had recorded and I left out, and I was like, why didn't I put that in there? I'm like, what a dumbass. It's like I'll just throw together a quick little video and be able to showcase all that. You can give thanks to some people that I haven't publicly given thanks to.
What a great idea that you just gave. I don't know if this was your intention, but like a Thanksgiving episode would be a great idea to thank the people. You know, I'm gonna do that. Maybe we both do. I think that's going to be another video, another one. Maybe each of us do, and maybe everybody should do that. Like, you know,
be thankful.
I think all of us owe, like, you know, a debt of gratitude to people who've helped us out, and or just people who understand what you're doing or like what you're doing or show up in the comments. I mean, you know, I'm really thankful. You know, all the people that are commenting here, and I think that's a great idea, and I should do a Thanksgiving episode. Maybe everybody should. I mean, if you're out there listening, you know, all the people that have helped us out, you know, in this, or that you became friends with, or, you know, show up in the chat, or like I said, appreciate what you're doing. That I really appreciate all those people. I really do.
I've been thinking about for like next week. That's why I haven't. I didn't really book anybody for next Wednesday, because I was just thinking about doing something, just to hang out, and like you said, that'd be a good idea. That'd be a good opportunity.
Count me in. My family's abandoned me this year. They've all gone to Florida, and I went there with them last year, but I just told him I just got back from this long South America trip, and then like right after Thanksgiving, I'm going to Europe for another like a little over 2 weeks. I can't do that to Chonko. I can't like be gone for almost 2 months.
Much.
I can't do it. So they all went, but yeah, maybe yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk. But with that, guys, it's about that time. Thanks again, Mike, for doing this, man. It's been a blast. I wasn't sure what we was going to get into, and Cerebus, that was a good choice. Definitely a good choice, man. That was
I hope people liked it.
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed myself immensely. And again, thanks to everybody in the chat. And
Lyle's got a big announcement on Friday. Everybody, make sure you tune into Alan's channel. Sounds like Lyle's got something to say.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Nope. As we're saying, I'm glad. I was reading some of his chats. He's saying things was getting a little bit better or something. So that's good to hear, Lyle. So praying for you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
We will. Me and Mike will see you guys Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern.
And Friday, probably.
And Friday, yeah, more likely Friday, somewhere, sometime.
If we get the invite.
Yeah. But with that, guys, we will get out of here, and everybody enjoy the rest of their week. Peace.